One of the best ways for you to improve your influence on others and to read people better is to be emotionally intelligent. And what does that mean? What is emotional intelligence? I'm going to cover 4 components of emotional intelligence. First component is intrapersonal. Second component I'm going to discuss is interpersonal. Third one, we're going to look at stress and impacts and the environment of stress. And one of the last parts is how do you contextualize and bring it all together in the moment. So you may have been in a scenario at work or any situation that you find yourself in that you kind of feel as though it's not going the way you want it to go. And it's almost like you're struggling to get to know one another and come to some sort of a common understanding and some sort of a common ground. What is within your control? What can you do to influence a better outcome? So when you just connect with someone and you just get each other and you just vibe, and you're able to interact with each other, and you know precisely where the boundaries are in that connection and that conversation. Now, I want to help you to have that same kind of connection with multiple people in different contexts. So the first thing you need to look at is yourself. Intrapersonal. What does intrapersonal mean? It means that you are able to achieve what you set yourself out to do. You've developed mastery in being able to achieve most situations that you find yourself in. But you're so self-aware. You know what you're capable of, what you're not capable of. You know where your limits are, where your boundaries are. It is so important to know yourself. That's the starting point of emotional intelligence. And the second point, interpersonal side. That is, how do you relate to others? So the first one is about me. The second one is those people that cross your path. How do you start having a conversation? How do you deal with difficult situations? How do you deal with conflict amongst the two of you? Or even multiple parties? How do you relate to others? And also your presence when you're walking. What kind of stance do you have? How do you have gravitas? How do you actually attract people that want to deal with you? Essentially, it's about others. You want to draw others unto you and form a meaningful connection with others. The next one is stress tolerance. Now, many of us struggle with stress, and there's a lot of things you can do about it. But it's how do you cope with stress? And I've covered a whole video around stress management and how to cope with it. So if you want to take a look at that, click here. Now, part of stress management is how do you deal with it internally? And also a fundamental component of it is how do you manage your impulses? As human beings, we always get these impulses. And you need to determine if this impulse is something that you're going to decide, A, are you going to act upon it? B, are you going to ignore it and just let it pass? Or C, are you actually going to park it for later? So you need to manage those sensations that come through you from time to time. You need to decide first how you're going to respond. So you need to take responsibility. For every given situation, you need to decide, how am I going to respond? And how do you deal with that to the best of your abilities? The last and most important point is contextualizing. And this has a couple of components that are attached to it. The first one is about your mood. How do you manage your mood? Do people actually sit there and say, whoa, watch out, it's cloudy weather today, don't go near that person? Or do people have some sort of signals to know that they need to avoid you? Or do they know when they can embrace you? You need to be consistent in terms of your personality. People need to know that you are approachable. It's a fundamental component of emotional intelligence is to manage your mood and not let your internal feeling and unhappiness and dissatisfaction start creating a cloud for others around you. The next part of contextualizing is about being optimistic. To start seeing the glass as half full instead of half empty. To start finding solutions instead of a problem in everything that exists. Most people just continue how we can't do this and why it can't be done. You need to have a can-do approach and attitude. And you need to bring hope to hopeless situations. And I saw a beautiful mnemonic for hope. Help one person every day. Now that's an important concept of emotional intelligence. And it's also how you have huge influence on those around you. Now I'm going to show you how to improve on each one of those areas. So let's start with the first one, intrapersonal. Now that boils down to how well do you know yourself? And the question you need to ask yourself is, first of all, who are you? Most people, when you ask them, who are you? They start defining themselves by, well, I'm a mother, I'm a teacher, or I'm a CA, and they start defining themselves by roles that they occupy. And it's not about that. It's not about anything external. The emotional seat of the heart is who you are in the core without being defined by any sort of role that you occupy. So how do you get to know who you are better? Follow your passion. What I would suggest you do is start keeping a little journal. And every day where you felt so passionate about something that just ignited that spark within you, start writing it down and start seeing a pattern emerge. It could take you 6 months, it could take you even longer. It took me a long time to decide what my passion was. It's only currently at this stage of my life have I really understood what my purpose is and my true calling is. Relax, be gentle with yourself. If it hasn't come yet and you don't know who you are, keep on rehearsing. Find the quiet time to just sit down and do some reflection at the end of the day, a bit of journaling to see where were those moments where you felt absolutely ignited and passionate in the day. So you're going to ask, well, why is it so important for me to know about myself? Well, the research has shown once you're authentic to yourself, that's when you have the biggest influence on people. In fact, it's greater than any other criteria that's been measured. Authenticity is what influences and impacts people the most. So a component of intrapersonal, again, is about self-mastery. Now, what is self-mastery? It's being able to master who you are and become skillful at what you're doing. So how do you do that? You do something consistently. You do imperfect actions consistently every single day. And as far as self-mastery is concerned, it's about practicing something new, getting outside your comfort zone, making sure you are growing and learning on a daily basis. Another component of intrapersonal is assertiveness. Now, a lot of people get this so confused. They start taking it as being arrogant, setting my boundaries, and actually miss the whole point. In fact, it's being authentic to yourself. And it's just being in a gentle, calm, loving way, in the best gentle, loving way you can possibly be, expressing what your needs are. That's what it really means about being assertive. It's not about being arrogant. It's not about being aggressive. And it's not about setting firm, inflexible boundaries. Essentially, it's being true to you. So the last component of intrapersonal is about self-actualizing. And those of you who don't know about Maslow's hierarchy, I'll explain it to you in a short version. Essentially what Maslow says if you want to start self-actualizing and achieve your full potential, you can't do so until your other needs are met. And he talks about, first of all, your fundamental needs, the need for security, the need to have basically food, to have water, and it goes up incrementally. And he says unless those fundamental needs are met, you are incapable or unable to actually achieve the pinnacle of who you want to be. There are certain things that precede it before you can actually self-actualize. You need to meet your personal needs, your safety needs, and then you can self-actualize. The next one is about interpersonal skills. Now, those encompass a couple of factors. The first and foremost one is effective communication. And we can do videos and we can continue indefinitely about communication. What does communication actually mean? Fundamentally, if you look at the model of communication, first of all, you have a message that you want to deliver to somebody. You need to be very, very articulate in terms of what is that message you want to deliver. And then in turn, wait for the recipient to receive that message and give you feedback. That feedback can come either verbally or through body language, but you got to start honing that skill of being able to see how people respond and the feedback mechanisms you give from the way and the manner in which you communicate. One of the biggest factors about communication is ability to receive negative feedback without getting defensive. This is something people struggle with. Stop taking things personally. In fact, nothing is personal. Everybody's living their own lives. They're all focused on their issues, their needs. So stop taking things personally. When someone offers you feedback, consider that a gift and take it open hands, and maybe it may be true. And if there starts becoming a couple of people, in fact, 4 or 5 people who start telling you the same thing over and over, maybe it's time for you to sit and listen instead of just being defensive and saying, that's not me. Because the way you intend to be sometimes doesn't have the desired impact. And to be emotionally intelligent, you need to have the desired impact on others. So be aware of how things land. They may not always land the way you intended, but then you're the one who has the power to change your messaging so you can have the desired effect that you're looking for. Another critical skill on interpersonal is ability to listen to others. And I can spend an entire day talking about active listening. But fundamentally, listening boils down to a few factors. It's your body language. If you're looking at me, making eye contact, not sitting talking on a cell phone, I know that you're actually listening to me. So physically, eye contact, putting everything else aside, you're the most important right now at this point in time. The second part of listening is the way you respond to somebody. Now, this is absolutely fundamental. Most people think it's just the first part. It's their body language, their physical presence, and standing there. What is more important is how do you actually respond and react. Most of us want to launch into wanting to fix it. All right, somebody's given us something, we've listened to what state they're in, and we immediately want to go and give them advice. An emotionally intelligent person will not give advice. An emotionally intelligent person will demonstrate empathy and respond in an empathetic manner. For instance, they can say, I can just imagine how frustrating it must be to have gone through such a tough ordeal, and you repeat a bit of what they've said. Not once do they provide advice, not once do they agree or disagree. That's what an emotionally intelligent person does. A very important component about emotional intelligence is not to gossip. Stop gossiping. If somebody comes to you and they start gossiping or start talking about somebody else, first thing you say to them is, did you tell that person? And redirect them right back to that person. Now, I guarantee you, if they're going to gossip with you, they're going to gossip about you. Refrain from entertaining gossip in all shapes and all forms. We get to one of my favorite topics, stress tolerance and how you manage stress. Now, this is something you have to master if you're going to be emotionally intelligent. It starts by the story you tell yourself. So be careful of using the words and saying, I'm so stressed out, I'm so frustrated. Watch your words. Be extra careful. Whatever you speak is what you're going to be creating. Rather use comments like saying, this is in a challenging time, but it's exciting. And just bear in mind, it's temporary. Nothing lasts forever. Also be very cautious of creating stories and creating stress for a future eventuality that may never ever occur. We often do that. We find ourselves thinking of the worst case scenarios down the line. What if this doesn't work? What if? Well, what if it actually does work out? Adding to that, managing your stress is living in the present moment. It's not carrying the baggage from the past. Let it be gone. That's dead. And it's also not worrying and concerned about the tomorrow or catastrophizing about what could possibly happen tomorrow. Enjoy the moment now and do whatever is at your disposal to do now. I just want to share something with you. This last month has probably been one of the most stressful times for me in the long time that I've had to endure. It impacted my personal relationships. It also meant long hours and trying to deliver whatever was expected from a work perspective, having to fly across to another continent to deliver work, and obviously had to meet some targets without going into any specifics, but it was a particularly trying time. So the way I dealt with it is, first of all, the story I told myself. I told myself, this is going to be over in a month's time. And I just realized nothing lasts forever, and I kept telling myself that over and over. And then instead of getting myself all stressed out in the moment, I just prioritized. Every day I set myself certain things that I wanted to do, small things I wanted to achieve on a daily basis, and just work through it without even allowing myself to think about it or even allow myself to say how stressful it was. Instead, I just got on with it. Now, I'm committed to myself. I'm committed to the goals I set myself. And that's a very important factor of emotional intelligence. You need to commit to whatever you say you're going to do. You need to commit. Never let yourself down. The next point, contextualization. You need to understand who you're going to be interacting with. You need to have a bit of context, what their personalities are all about, who they are, the background. You can't go in with your agenda. And that's often where people who lack emotional intelligence go in like a bull in a china shop and just want to drive home their own agenda. See and read the lay of the land and take your time. Absorb the individuals in the room. Get to connect with them first and be very conscious and aware of the impact that you're having on those around in terms of body language, in terms of your mood, in terms of how you come across. Go and put a smile on your face. That immediately will put you in the right frame of mind to build and connect with somebody and start having the influence that you're looking for by just being fully present and making sure you have a strong presence. So in summary, seek first to understand before being understood. So if you go into a conversation thinking that somebody's upset with you, you're going to go in there and react and respond from that context. So if you don't contextualize and understand, first of all, what their standpoint is, where they're coming from, you're going to misread the environment and you're not going to have the desired effect that you want to have and the impact you want to have in that situation. So you're going to misread the context, trying to push your agenda before trying to understand where they're coming from. So these are the building blocks for building your emotional intelligence. But it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take consistent practice at trying to improve yourself, getting outside your comfort zone. Now, the best thing you can do is have a look at people who are emotionally intelligent. Observe the way they act, the way they behave, the way they talk. And what you need to start doing is to start adopting that kind of behavior. Start practicing what they do. And remember, fake it till you become it. I hope this video explained the concepts of emotional intelligence. Leave some comments, let me know your thoughts about it and what you'd like to hear more about. If you don't want to miss those videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button. I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.